Hey guys, welcome to another voiceover tutorial. My name is Akemi-chan, and for this voiceover tutorial we're gonna go back to some of more basic stuff, and this time it won't be on painting. It's gonna be on posing characters and pretty much some tips on how to pose character within a composition canvas, since I think it's one of the trickier things for certain artists, and I think it's a fun subject and it will be useful. So let's go ahead and start talking about it. So posing, I think I remember I did a previous tutorial on composition, but this one's gonna be more on posing the character. So I'm going to do a few poses. So let's say this is our canvas here. Now I'm going to just show you guys some of the common mistakes. So usually when it comes to canvas, you probably want to stick with a more rectangular canvas compared to a square canvas, just because it will be easier to fit a character in there, and you'll get more out of your character instead of just a portrait. You can probably fit a full body or half body, and I prefer this size. So anyways, some of the common mistakes that I see, just gonna make 3 frames here. Okay, let's just duplicate that real fast. So this tutorial won't be too detailed. I just want to go over some of the mistakes I see, and then I'm gonna give you guys some suggestions on how to fix them. So first mistake, something that I see often is that, I guess it's personal preference, but you see, so usually I will see, like, let's say there's a character like that. Okay, this is kind of ugly looking, but let's say she's wearing a dress, something like that, and then for some reason it's a little bit crooked. But sometimes actually I see this quite a bit. So that's the first, and the background is pretty empty, so something like this. And then sometimes I also see, let's say we have a full character now. The posing is not too great, but you know, posing can be quite challenging, and sometimes I would see a bit of something like this that's not, I'm thinking that they probably don't really wasn't really thinking about composition and the way it's filling up the canvas, something like this. And then I'm trying to think of other some of the submissions I got actually on some of the stream. We had some. Okay, I guess the other more challenging part is foreshortening, and one of the things I would see is the foreshortening is probably not done that good, and it's in a way that your character's limb all stick together and overlap each other, although it is, I don't know how to a kind of example I'm gonna give, but all the limbs are stuck together. Okay, I saw one example. I think if you watch this you'll probably know that I'm talking about you, but just want to clarify. So something like this, where the character is probably like bending their legs and she's probably wearing a skirt or something, but you don't really see that clearly. And then plus you have the foreshortening here. Something like that. Something like these. Now this, I understand that you guys want to do foreshortening, however, even with foreshortening, your character silhouette must show through, and that is also one of the common thing that I see. Let's move it closer so we can do another example. I kind of wanted to do another example. Alright, so I'll duplicate the frame once again, put it to the side. And then another one I see, I remember I saw a something that was upside down character. Now this character was a mermaid. It was in one of my earlier streams that I did earlier on, and I believe the artist was trying to do foreshortening, however it did not end up looking very foreshortened as that much. Actually, I forgot how they did it, but it didn't feel very foreshortened. I don't know, it's hard. I should definitely find those references and kind of do this a little more properly now. I think they had it like this actually, and then the tail was here. I think they wanted to make it feel like I don't really remember, but just pretend. And then the head was perhaps here. It wasn't just saying it wasn't really done properly, but I definitely get the feel that's what they were trying to do. But yeah, sometimes very tricky angles. So these are pretty much, and then also the characters would be centered, very centered. I mean, you can definitely have a centered composition, but there's some conditions to that. So these are some of the stuff that I see quite a bit. Let's call this, well, I guess I wouldn't want to say common mistakes, but common I don't want to call this a mistake. Common composition / posing issues. I guess I could say composition issues, but of course I mean no offense by this. I mean, honestly, I think even with a crappy composition and posing, you could probably really make the piece look good with the rendering. Now you can save a lot of it by rendering really nicely. I'm just saying that if you had your composition and the posing down when you render, it's gonna look so much better. But that's just with everything. If you got the base down really good, then the composition, then the finished product will be very good. Better than what you would have if you didn't have that down. So these are some of the issues. Now I'm gonna do another, I'm gonna do another example down below now, this time down below, of how I would fix it and some suggestions for that. So I'm gonna call this group 1, group 2. I'm gonna call it fixes or suggestions. So now for this here, so a lot of the times they would have a character kind of like this in the center. Now center character is fine. You could probably just keep it like this, but if you do keep it centered like this, you need other stuff in your background. Now now it becomes more background focused than character focused. First thing I would try to do is probably frame the character a little better. Maybe have something in the back like a glow, perhaps maybe something more graphic, because when it comes to a very straightforward composition like this where your character's in the center now, it's very difficult to put a organic background, because organic trees, forests, that type of stuff is very unbalanced. I guess I could try. But I think this type of composition would work very well with graphic stuff. And then you would have your character in the center and something like this. You gotta create more stuff happening in the background, unless, I don't know, you're keeping it simple. But personally, I prefer to have something going on in the background. Now for this, a first mistake is the posing. It's not balanced, not too much. So how do you know it's balanced? You draw a line from the neck of the character straight down. Now, you drew the line straight down. Let's say that this is our plane here, or I guess it could be this. Actually, I don't know, but it's still not that balanced. So why it's not balanced? Because both limbs are kind of heavy on this side. For it to be balanced, you would have to put a limb kind of like on this side, so that you have a limb on this side of the line and a leg on that side of the line. That way your character is balanced. And now, I mean, your character is balanced. However, is the pose awkward feeling? Perhaps. There's so much stuff to go. You have to think about when you pose the character, especially in a composition. Now I can suggest a few settings. If you absolutely have to make it a full body, I would try to rotate it in a way that most of her body fit into the composition, right? It doesn't matter if it's clipped a little bit. The focus is to make the character fill up most of the canvas. I mean, I could probably make it bigger, but she's not going to be full body no more. So whatever you can do to make the character fit most of the canvas without actually that fits your intentions pretty much. So let's say she's a full body here. Now there's a few things about the pose. Now it's a little awkward, so I'll show you guys a way to pose your character after. But okay, her chest is kind of like this. First things first, let's make sure her posing is not weird. So right away I'm just gonna fix this a little bit. And a way to help you with posing characters is just to have them not wear any clothes at first, because you want to make sure their posture is right. And if your character's wearing skirt or something, you probably add that in later. Or with guys, you don't really need to worry about it that much. And probably gonna change the pose here now. So now it feels more balanced. Now if you take a look at the line here, got a leg on this side and that side. And then if you look at this one, what we initially had, actually this pose is not too bad either, but I always like to be more curvy. And then we can have the skirt now be more dynamic. I know I kind of just did a little blob here and adding more details here, but still this applies. If you just have a character pose a very standard like, and it feels like she's tipping over even though you want to do an angle, gotta make sure she's still the line here has both legs on each side, and try to fit the more character into the canvas, right? let's say she has a dress on. Just going to erase here. So this is what I mean. After you can erase it, and then you still keep the legs. So I'm just gonna shade this character really fast. So once you have that, now the composition isn't done yet. Some of you can keep it simple like this, but for me at least, if you're trying to pull like an angle, you cannot keep it simple. It's not a concept art layout, kind of like straight, where the character's just standing. It's all about the design. Now if you're trying for an angle, you gotta incorporate some sort of background. Let's say she's standing somewhere. This is the horizon line, and there's like some interesting monuments here and there, something like that. So the whole, and then of course the whole point is so these shapes would kind of frame her, because that's what you want in the background. You always want the background to frame the character. And the reason why I say these things are framing her is that I'm thinking of creating this type of shape where we're gonna have really lightness, like a really focal lighting in the back, and everything else is darker. And this way it creates a nice square frame, rectangular frame for the characters. In addition to this, you could do this as well, like have a stereotypical glowy object in the background, like hey, maybe there's some magical power in the back, like, you know, some small details. So always think about make sure your character fits most of the canvas and then make a background that frames the character. Now those are very important. Alright, so actually I kind of want to make the character a little darker, just so it will stand out a bit more. So as you can see, I made it slightly darker, and now you can distinguish. It feels like she's more forward. This is just a sketch, but pretty much you want to, for this type of background, you want to make the character more contrast, have more contrast than the background. That way your audience is not looking at the background, looking at your character. Remember, the more contrast something have, the more your eyes will be drawn to it. And it's probably something that your teacher will tell you at some point in art school. Yeah, that is pretty basic knowledge. 101. My teacher pretty much really emphasized that point. I'm just gonna clean up this canvas now. Okay. So now this one, the idea behind it was, the mistake idea behind it was that a lot of you guys would try to do foreshortening now, whether with reference or just by feel alone, which I don't recommend, especially if you're not used to it. Now, the common issue is that you do it, you know, like the stereotypical foreshortening, and then you overlap your limbs together, and that does not make for a very visually, like, if you look at it, some people won't know what you're going for, which is not good. You want your audience to always know what your character is doing. If you have a limb hitting the background, you probably want to pop a little hand out to make sure that it reads somewhat. You know what I mean? Actually, I will show you guys. Let's say you have a character like this, and you're assuming that the hand is kind of like in the back. Sure, that's possible. Now, to make it better, you need to pop that hand out somewhere to make sure your audience know that there's a hand in the back. Even though, yeah, it's implied, but you still gotta make sure the audience sees all the character's limb, right? So let's say you have a nice foreshortening on the arm here. Now I can't really see the limbs here, but I'm just gonna do a very skeleton-like here. Because this will help. Trust me, this will help. So you draw the anatomy, draw it out. So this right here, this leg here, because it's hidden behind that leg, it's not very readable. So instead we will move this leg down here. Now if we do that, both legs will be visible, and you will be able to tell what the character is doing. And this is actually, I used to pose pretty bad, because even though I would be doing foreshortening, all my foreshortening, because realistic foreshortening is pretty boring to look at. Like, you have all the limbs stuck in one place, even though it's real, but the silhouette is not that interesting. Now, if we take a look at this silhouette compared to that silhouette, how can you tell though? Good question. A good way to tell silhouette is to just color it up like this, fill it out like this, and then fill this one out, and see which one's more interesting and dynamic. I guarantee you it will be this one, because you'll know what the character's doing. The character's kind of jumpy, and of course we got the hand sticking out here. Let's just say, for the sake of it, that, yeah, something like this. It's really ambiguous. So if we do it like this, it will be more readable, right? And on top of that, after you fix the posing, now with the composition now, as usual, personal preference, I usually like to make sure my character fits almost the whole screen. So with that one is, we can try to tilt it whichever way and try to see which angle it fits. Like, I kind of dig this angle, it's pretty interesting. But you can just keep it the same. Like, I can see, like, obviously the screen is slanted. I like to do them angled looks, as you guys can tell. But yeah, you can also do straight, but I usually find a little bit of angle is more interesting. So let's say I like this angle right here. So we're gonna just go with that angle. And of course we have the limbs. Yeah, I know it's a little cut off, but we still got like the general feel of the action in there. And then of course, now you see the skirt that's like bundled up, hiding her leg here. What we're gonna do here is, my preference is that I want to show anatomy. I want to be able to make sure the reader or the audience knows she got a pair of beautiful legs behind that skirt. So I'll probably do something like this, like as if the skirt is flipping, and always try to make sure the fabric is flowing nicely. So let's say she has a dress like this, and then her face like this. I usually like to do lines for the face just for funsies, and of course you can now for the composition for this, I know I didn't have her hair over here, but usually when it comes to this, if your character have long hair with this type of angle, whatever, with nothing in the background, you can cheat by making her long hair do some kind of really nice movement, like make it really mobile, dynamic, you know, kind of like this. Try to, I guess you don't have to try to fill the whole canvas, but the more space you fill, the less you have to worry about painting a detailed background, because your character's hair is hiding everything. Now, isn't that a good cheat, good way to not have to paint so much for the background? So once we have that, you can try to find other ways to cheat the background. Like for example, if this character was an angel, you would have her wings hiding a big chunk of the background. But anyways, just like suggestions, you know, just some small suggestions. And of course, in the end, you'll have to do a background. But for characters that pretty much fills the whole screen canvas, which is at least 85%, which I think this is pretty close to 85% of the canvas. If you have a character like that, you can be pretty lazy with the background. You don't have to go full out with a really, like, you really need to think about it if your character occupies like 1/3 of your canvas. But with this, you can do like some gradient background, maybe some magical lines, stuff like that. Very abstract, very simple, right? And of course, always try to frame your character. Framing your character is very important. Okay, let me just delete this now. Oops, I was just cleaning that up, but anyways, it's definitely getting there. Yes. Alright, so for this example, like I said, I had one submission from one of you that was trying to go for the upside down mermaid thing. Oh my gosh, I probably shouldn't have used this example, but as always, this type of composition with the character straight on is not the most interesting thing to look at. Now if you compare it, these two right here, even with this, now as you can see, which one is more dynamic? Probably one of these two, right? So if you are aiming for a more I guess neutral and tranquil feeling, I guess go for something like this, but honestly I would not recommend this. Actually, I'm gonna go ahead and probably change this. I don't know how I'm gonna change it. Actually, we could do something like this. Move the character to the side here. Something like that, so that it's not too centered. Break off the symmetrical feel, and instead we're gonna play around with our hair so that it feels like it's moving. Usually when I try to paint, I always want to include a bit of a movement in the character. Now that can be a little difficult with male characters that don't have long hair, but usually female characters are very fun to pose in a mobile way. So yeah, that's pretty much it, I think, for this character. And of course we gotta have some sort of background element to kind of frame this angel girl right here. I don't know, it's definitely more interesting than that, but general idea is to make sure the character fills up the canvas. Now this only applies if you are aiming for more character focused pieces. If your character's in some sort of complicated environment, now at that point it's gonna be an environment focus piece with a character add-on, which I don't think I have enough. Well, I guess I could do a tutorial on that, but I'm not the type of artist to do that. That is why I'm doing this instead. Keeping it within my expertise. Like I can 100% suggest this to you guys because I've done this many times and that's what we're doing. Anyways, let's go back. Okay, so for this, first thing I would probably suggest is probably kind of move it in a way like first probably tilt it a little bit, and then now as you can see the pose here is very straight. And what we want to do usually with straight on characters like this, we want to make sure there's movement. So first thing I would suggest for you guys, if you have a similar pose here, is you need to move that pose a little bit, like maybe have the mermaid kind of doing a little bit of this, where she's having her tail a little bit in this direction, but her chest is in on this direction. Something with a counterbalance, pretty much. I'll probably also change the arms as well, maybe. I don't know. I'm not really sure. Well, something not so symmetrical, you know what I mean? Something fun. So instead, this mermaid chick is going to... Oh gosh, it's a little weird. I should flip my canvas over. Now this is a little bit of a weird position. So what I did was on Photoshop, you can rotate. So you press R, you rotate, so that it's easier to work with. And okay, so now, so this is her hip now. Let's pretend that her leg is going this way, her torso is going this way, and probably the head will need to be adjusted to probably here. So this, I guess, would be my tip on how to pose your character a little better, especially for this goes for all straightforward poses. You know, you guys have to make sure that the pose is not stiff. It needs to be counterbalanced with the shoulder versus the hips versus the knee versus the you don't have to do everything, but the basic should be the shoulder versus the hips. That's like one of the biggest things that you have to keep in mind, especially with a straightforward pose. So now that we have kind of kind of played around with that, we kind of fancied up her pose a little bit, made it a bit more fluid and more dynamic. Okay, now if you look at the character, this versus this pose, it's a lot more dynamic, and we always want to try to aim for that, especially for character-based pieces, and always make sure they are the focus. As you can tell, the canvas here is kind of surrounding her, you know, but it feels there's a lot of empty space here. Now with this, we kind of fill up the canvas with this character right here, which is what we want. Now you can probably make the size a little smaller so we can fit everything in there. Something like that. And then of course I'm just going to shade it this color for I'm gonna go with multiply, shade this color up just so it stands out. And let's say our composition for the hair is like, the hair is kind of like going in this way. In a way, the hair will help kind of frame the character, right? Something like that. And of course I gotta clean that up. There we go. Clean that up. Oh god, I actually don't really like this. I probably need to maybe move this girl up. I actually kind of like the way that she's kind of popping out of the canvas, which is kind of cool. You can also play around with that, but just make sure your character is filling up the canvas appropriately. So with this, now as you can see, you guys have to also keep in mind that, as you can see now, there's this space here. Sure, there's like some stuff filling out this way. The characters over here kind of occupying this side. Now this side is kind of empty. So what you want to do with that is try to put something there to kind of fill that empty space. And you'll kind of, as you guys do this more often, like try this type of composition, you'll kind of get it when there's it feels too empty there. So let's say she's got a random fish thingy there. That can probably fill it out. And I'm not sure what this is, but probably some sort of wall type thing. But I just put it there to kind of frame the character mostly. So something like these. Yep. So that's a quick 101 for you guys. Some suggestions I suggest sorry, some of the suggestions to how to improve these commonly made mistakes when you pose a character in a character composition. So yeah. Alright guys, let's continue here. So thinking of going back to these examples and just adding some very small details just because I have it really detailed up here, and hopefully I can just add the details so it won't feel like here I did a lot more than here, which is kind of true, but let's just even things out a bit. Okay. So I'm just gonna do a circle here, kind of emulating what I have going on here. So I'm gonna do a few lines like this and kind of shape this just like how I shaded the other one. So you guys don't really need to follow my example here. I'm just trying to make this a little bit more fair. It feels like I pretty much did a lot more on the bottom, which is true. But let's just even out the playing field a bit up there. Okay. Let's give her a plane to stand on, and then the equal same amount of similar idea pretty much. Let's just give all these similar ideas. And then of course she is in shadow. But honestly, the example, actually this doesn't look too bad, but honestly it could be with or without this edit. Let's just go ahead and finish that up, and then I'll do one more thing with the posing. Okay, so for this, let's add the hair. Let's try to make the hair really stiff on this character, because I do know that some of you have trouble with hair, and usually they don't really look very flowy like this. So some of you guys are, in a way, I feel like you are a little scared to kind of experiment with the flow of things, which is understandable. Usually when you're just starting out, you're very well, at least I was pretty uncomfortable with kind of trying out new stuff, you know what I mean? So I'm always afraid to do even one stroke out of my comfort zone. It's kind of like tippy toes in a swimming pool. It's kind of like that. So when I say these things, I don't mean no offense by it. I'm just saying that I've been there, and if you can relate to that, then awesome. So with this one, we're just going to make it slightly darker. Okay. And I remember it's kind of like this. Oh god, it's a little weird on this, so I'll just keep it like that. So I added some small detail for the first row of sketches, but these are more like some kind of weak composition and posing compared to what I have suggested down below. But anyways, that is the first thing that I wanted to discuss with you guys in terms of composition and kind of posing with that. So now I'm going to talk to you guys about, this will be pretty quick. I'm going to talk to you guys about posing characters now. I've done a few tutorials on this. Actually I did them very early on when I first started Patreon. I did quite a bit of those posing, but we're gonna do a quick recap. So let's get started. This time, same principle. I'm gonna show you guys what I see usually. So first things first, what I see usually is, okay, this might be a little bit exaggerated, but no joke, it's very straight, like, oh god. So let's see, when you're first starting out, this is probably what I would have done, but something very, very stiff. Something that does not have too much movement. Okay, I have a bit of movement here, but that's not what I'm trying to do. So, example 1. Oh gosh, let's give her long hair. Alright. And then another example that I see now, exactly like this one, where the character is kind of, when they're trying to draw 3/4 views now, it's kind of hard to, damn it. Okay, I'll try to draw it crooked, okay? And actually, if I draw it crooked, it should be like this. Sorry, I'm trying to give you guys an example. This is literally how I used to draw, I think. Actually, I didn't even put hips in my girls back in the days. It was probably not even like this. I don't remember. It was really a misshapen. I had a really bad shape. I didn't even know where to put the arm back in the days. Probably like really down here, like it didn't even feel right. But something like this, right? And then when we tried, oh man, I should dig up some of my old pictures with really bad posing. Okay, and then I don't know, man. It's hard to. I'm trying. Okay, I should really look up some really. Let me just do some research. Be right. Alright, another thing that I kind of see quite a bit is when the chest and the stomach don't make no sense in terms of the angle. So let's see, they have something like this. And oh god, I'm just trying to remember how they used to do it here. Probably one arm here, and then one arm. Something that I would do back in the days. Just have the other arm completely doesn't match up somewhere that it's not supposed to be there. Like really down here. Cause like I just don't think about that stuff when I was younger. Well, when I was starting out drawing too. So let's say you got something like these, maybe like that. And let's see, maybe you are just starting out with. Okay, I'm just gonna try to see how. It's hard to kind of draw as if I don't know the rules. I know some rules, but it's hard to draw as if I don't know what the rules are. Alright, I'm trying my best here. Actually, you know what? This pose is pretty good. Like, it's a good basic pose you can layer on top of. So let's say you guys, not really sure. Actually, I should make this a bit more stiff. It's actually not looking that stiff. Damn it. I want it to be stiffer. And yeah, this needs to be... Oh man, this actually looks good. Like the pose is a good pose. It goes to show that you can actually build a base very easily with this type of Oh god. Okay, I guess I can't really do the examples I wanted to show you guys, but let's just go with these now. There's nothing wrong with actually, except this one, because this one looks like it's not centered. Like, this one looks like the character's falling, but let's say you start off with something basic like this. These are not mistakes, but you can do better. You can make them even better. So we're just gonna duplicate these now, and we're gonna make it better. Lower the opacity. Now we're going over this now with my corrections. So usually, yes, you can have a character kind of like straightforward like this. However, you can make it even better now by, this is a thing I explained in a lot of my tutorials, you gotta have counterweight. I also talked about it here, I think. So what that is if your shoulder is like this, your hips either go like this to counterweight or like that. So create a bit of variation, right? So you can start off with just counterweighting your hips and shoulders, sort of like this. Create a basic form. In this case, I usually like to start out with the chest. And then we have the separation, where your belly button is, and then your hips. Okay, remember, for females, hips equal width to your shoulder, or larger or slightly smaller depending on what the girl's build is. Crotch, legs. So with the legs here, you notice that it's fairly straight. We can bend one area and then yeah, another area. I guess the posture changing a little bit, but the goal of it is to kind of sorry, these feet are not like the best, but the goal of this is to try to create more dynamicness, and then, you know, try to go with a more interesting pose instead of having her arm at her side. Of course, you can also do that, keep it simple, but you can also, I don't know, I guess if it doesn't hurt, go with her personality, but I would make her a little sassy. And then you can put the skirt back, and maybe, hey, she got her skirt in one hand, I don't know. Make it a bit more interesting. Something like that. Always think about how to be dynamic, and I guess she's wearing a shirt, a crop top, and a skirt. And of course, you can also play around with the hair, or you can keep it the same, maybe got a bit of movement in her hair there. So this is how I would change the pose, and of course, make sure your character's on even ground, which sometimes my characters are not. So always gotta verify it, of course, with the line here. And then you have the what's it called? Oh, totally forgot. Damn it. The knees, yes. So now for this one now, remember that we gotta make sure your character's balanced. So immediately what I'm gonna do is start off with the shoulder, okay, and then of course we gotta move on to the hips, counterbalance. We can probably do this, make her a bit sassy, or the other way is also fine. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do, the chest, okay, and now this is the rib cage here, right here, and then the belly button, the muscle, and the hips, which is here. Now this view is slightly more difficult, but it should look something like this. This might take a bit of practice. I will draw another shape for you guys later on, but from there, remember where the head is, and then draw a straight line right here. So this is the line of balance. Now what you want to do is keep 1 foot over here and then 1 foot over here. Something like that. So that your character is balanced properly. Oh gosh. So as you can see, if we look above here, okay, I know there's like not that much detail here, but still, the same principle. It's gotta make sure that line is in between those legs, female or male. And then of course we have the head. We can definitely keep the head as it is. I'm not sure what type of haircut. Maybe go for like a nice cute cut here. Probably make the head bigger. But of course this line is very important, especially when you're starting out and you need the guidance if you get used to it. And of course the hands, probably, I don't know, just like making it a bit more dynamic. Maybe a bit of, oh god, that's girly. We can have this arm down here like that, and this arm down here. So now the arm part is the wrist is usually where the crotch is. So if it's your arm is completely down, your wrist is here, your hand down here, and your hand is usually around this much of the head, unless you're a guy. Now male character have a lot of wiggle room there. Their hands can be a lot bigger, but for females usually the common size would be almost the same height as your face, the length anyway. So you got your hand there, and then yeah, you do this to your face. If you just take your hand and like see how much of it goes on your face, you'll know what I mean. But anyways, this is how I would correct it. And I guess we can give her t-shirt, crop top of course, and gym shorts, something sporty. Now it's a little messy here. I just want to keep it there so you guys could see my thought process. And as you notice here, what I'm doing is aligning the heel. So the heel goes here, the toes goes a little forward. That's why you're probably wondering why it's not aligned 100% like this, because you usually align where the heel is and then you forward a little bit on the toes, right? Alright, so for this one, what we're gonna do here is the shoulder, the neck, the face, that's the chest area, and then the rib cage, belly button, the hips, the crotch. So now, as you can see, we need to like lower the crotch up a bit. Bring the crotch up a bit, because it is kind of like foreshortening a bit, so a lot of stuff is overlapping, like her rib cage, her chest, right? So one after another in this kind of motion. And then we have the leg, and then just show a bit of that leg and feet, and then we can do the other one. Essentially nothing really bad with this pose, just needed a bit of adjustments. And of course, always try to make sure the limbs are readable. Okay, let me just spend a bit more time here. Her limbs are kind of like squished up together. And then we can give her another t-shirt, crop top. I like crop tops. They're fun to draw. And jeans maybe this time. Like that. So here it lacked a bit of structure, so I just put the structure here. And now for this pose, you can definitely start out your sketch like that and then put more details in it, but then you gotta study those details. The more you study, the easier you will feel when you do this type. Right now it probably looks a lot easier than it actually is, but I promise you, if I just started out, I'm gonna have no idea what's going on. I felt very lost when I first did this, but I practiced quite a bit using an anatomy book, and I would just study it pretty much. Sorry, I'm just doing the torso of the guy. The guy is a little bit more challenging. Sure, you have the rib cage, the chest. It just the landmarks are not as visible as girls. You know, girls got hips, got chest. Those are very easy landmarks to work with. With guys, it's more subtle. So, I mean, you can probably emphasize on the muscle here, but it's a lot more harder to notice certain things. And of course, remember to how do you say, match the heel here. And as you can see, if I draw the line here, you see how close he is to tipping over. Like this leg is almost over here. So when you do that now, it's very useful, because once you notice, you can what I do is Control T, transform, right click, gonna go with distort. I'm just gonna kind of move it a little, tilt it over a bit. Actually, you know what? Well, we're keeping the vibe of that one sketch. So I can see that. I think he has his hands in his pockets like that. But this time, what we could do is just kind of tilt the legs like this a bit. So we're still keeping that posture that we have up here, like leaning a little bit. Now if I draw the line again, it should be more balanced. Yeah, see, it's a lot more balanced. So this guy is wearing a shirt as well, and some shorts. Now let me just erase it slightly, but not everything, but not too much. Sorry, I'm keeping some of the anatomy detail just for shows. But yeah, this is some tips for you guys to keep in mind. Of course, you need to practice on your own to be good. It's not like you can watch this video and become really good all at once. You need to put in the work for it, and if you do, I promise you, you will get here. Or you will be here. Just need a bit more practice, have proper guidance, you know, that type of thing. But yeah, I was gonna show you guys how, like, another short demo that I said I was going to do is just show you guys some basic shapes that you can work with. Hold on one sec. You know what? I kind of want to put some slight shadows, so I'm gonna use a nice pink gray. Just putting some shadows on here for funsies. Just some very simple shadows. Now shading is another business, but just some simple ones to kind of define certain shapes, kind of emphasize a certain posture too, especially with shadow. You can really exaggerate those postures. Shadow is what also makes something. You can have a really bad pose drawn sketch, but with the right rendering you could probably like make it not as bad. It's just like a good paint job on a crappy car, right? The same thing for art. You can have a crappy base, but if you have good shading rendering skill, you could probably get by with that. I kind of do that sometimes. I'm kind of guilty of that sometimes when I'm not really sure how something works, and even with reference, I don't know if I got it. I'll try to distract you guys with my rendering skills. But still, I suggest studying this beforehand. It will help, trust me. So anyways, I just quickly did a quick shadow. Gonna call this posing demo. I'll do another one called shape demo. So for the shapes, I just want to show you guys. You can represent, for example, face, circle, as always. You can do this line to show where the character is looking. One line, kind of like this, for the chin, okay? And then you can do another circle for the chest. This part is where the arm will be. So let's say kind of like this. And then this is your rib cage. And then your stomach. And then we have the pelvic bone. Okay, this you'll probably see a lot in gesture drawing books. They'll show you this type of stuff, right? Just you have these shapes to represent the pose. And then of course you can do this very fast. Here's the balance line. And then do the leg. Something like this, right? And then you can put that into, and then maybe the character has the arm like that. You can easily tell what the character is doing. Just very simple. You can add the details later on. You can also use very simple boxes like legit rectangles, circles, triangles, why not? And then you can do the same. You can use whatever shape you want, honestly. You just need to have the shape down. I should probably make this bigger. Here's another example of a very simple way to do, oh god, maybe it's a bit bent weirdly, but something like that. You can easily use those to help you. And we can probably even just do it with a stick figure. So, but hey, make sure to get those counterweight going, right? And then you have, don't forget your line, your weight line. And then obviously I guess you have to imagine the the torso here. Something like that. As you can see, look how simple you can make it. Probably this arm is doing a broken arm thing. So yeah, something like this. You can even go very simple, and then you put shape into it. Let me just put that. Actually, I'll make a different layer. And I'll do an overlay for you guys on how we can start adding details. Okay, this might take a while. Actually, it won't take that long. This is quite, it's not too complicated for me. This is like the fun part, since I used to do this a lot. I got a lot of practice on this. So now we're going to put shape. I'm just gonna color these in this color right here, something lighter, and we're going to add the details with a dark color. Alright, let's get started. So we're gonna start with a dark color with this. It's a lot more visible. Ears here. Okay, the head is another thing. Now the head. And you start with a torso and the arm. Now this requires a bit of knowledge here with the muscle and how it works. So I definitely suggest a lot of practice for this. My rib cage, belly. So guys have something like that. And it's kind of harder to, but they do have like a hip bone right here. It's probably not as prominent though, so the crotch area, the butt, the leg. I haven't done this in a while, but I think it goes sort of like this. Oh god, let me just check the preview, see if I'm doing it right. He has a bit of a booty, so it's not a bad thing, but just making sure it's not that crazy. And you guys know me, I'm all about that thickness, so naturally gonna have thick thighs. So a lot of these shapes comes with just observing. Of course, always making sure you got your heels properly aligned there. Oh god, yeah, that booty is sticking out. Probably need a bigger chest. So sometimes if you feel like the character proportion isn't right, you can always adjust it. Kind of like this. Okay, I don't think I can. I could probably do this and then connect the other side. Now arm muscle is actually one of the more challenging parts that I had to study, but you know what, the more you study, the faster you'll get and the more familiar you'll get with it. Okay, so I guess something like that. Some of these parts are not aligned properly, so I'm just gonna go ahead and fix that. I think I'll do lines like this for you guys. But yeah, something like that. And of course you add curves to your limbs. Limbs are not straight like this, they are curved. But that's another thing, that's just another thing. Alright guys, let's continue. I had to save my recording just so it doesn't bug out, so now we're back. So with this one, very similar, except you gotta do a few more steps because there's not that much guidelines, not like the other one. And of course that is assuming knowing and measured all the proportions properly. This one we're going to go for a girl. So the chest could be easily simplified to something like this. The rib cage, something like that. Belly button, the muscle. Now girls are a little bit more, a little bit less confusing because they got landmarks such as the hip, the dip here, and then they got the hips, the rib cage right here. Oh, sorry, not the rib cage. The you guys know the hip bone right here, the crotch, and then the leg. I think this one has really long legs, so I might shorten it right here. Yeah. Of course, gotta make sure it's curved. God, I'm getting really lazy with these feet. Just don't really care about feet that much. Make sure that the chest is properly aligned. And then the arm right here. And the other arm. Just slightly less detail. The neck and the face. Now, because your face is so simple, you need to go back to construct it again. So similar to what I did there, just gotta do it to that face as well. Maybe she's gonna have ponytail. That's usually like the standard hairstyle for these type of practices. Probably need bigger hip actually. What I like is to have a generous ratio, the shoulder to hip ratio for girls. I know girls have a lot of other type of body frame. I myself, I'm not a curvy girl, but I like drawing curvy girls, so that's why I draw all the time. It's not that I can't draw other types, is that I just prefer drawing this type. I just like drawing this type. That's pretty much it. Okay. Let's take this off. Yeah, that's a lot better. And this one, see how sassy that one is? This one's slightly different pose though. This one is probably gonna be a chick as well. So similar thing. I like to start off with the chest. And then next to that we got the rib cage. Belly button. Now this is the abdomen muscle. I'm gonna change that after. It's just a guide. Usually if you do this, it's not gonna look good. If you keep it this dark, you usually should probably end up erasing it when you start to properly render it out. But I'm just using that as a landmark. And the neck, this one's gonna be a bit more cartoony, so don't mind me. God, it's sometimes hard for me to try to do something that I'm not really used to. It's an interesting challenge, however at the end of the day, I prefer the certain look, certain style, so I'll just go back to it. Honestly, I've tried to do other type of style, it didn't feel right. I always end up going back to a certain aesthetic. As long as you know your mistake, as long as you study anatomy, it doesn't matter what style you choose to make your own, as long as you're improving. Like I might be sticking to the same aesthetic, but if I still improve based on it, then hey, that's good. But anyways, just a ramble. So if you ever feel like pressure to do different things, you don't have to, but just keep in mind you gotta keep improving. Doesn't mean that you stick to one aesthetic that you should stop improving. Improving doesn't mean trying something completely different. It means refining your craft, like getting better at proportion, getting better at playing with it, creating different shape with it. I don't know, like as you can see, this is totally not realistic. This is like, you know what I mean? Like this is more realistic. But this one's just crazy. But hey, I know it's crazy. I choose to do it. That's the difference. When you improve, you can choose to kind of play around with anatomy. Like how I have a more realistic proportion versus a very anime type proportion, which oftentimes is a very unrealistic, but you can still see that I know my anatomy, even though it's kind of crazy. I mean, I get that a lot, but come on, it's supposed to be fantasy, it's supposed to be a drawing, it's not supposed to be reality. Anyways, just a bit of chill talk, like real talk, I guess. But anyways, as you can see, her legs are quite large, and quite possibly no real girl have this kind of probably not a lot, but yeah, just for fun, because I do like to play around with that ratio. But anyways, just want to show you guys. So that's pretty much it. I hope that was helpful for you. As you can see, you can totally start out with something super simple like that, and then move on to more complicated stuff, adding details and whatnot. So yeah, and same goes for this. You can start off with very
simplistic sketch like blobs like I had here, but then you just just sketch over it, make it more dynamic. This one's a bit more dramatic, but the other ones, as you can see, definitely feels more evolved. And always keep in mind when you do composition, especially for character-based illustrations, always, unless the client specifies otherwise, usually try to keep them the majority of the canvas. Have them occupy that space and draw stuff around them to frame them. Kind of like what I did there. But yeah, just keep that in mind. And I hope it was informative for you guys. Or you can just listen to it, I don't know, like while you draw yourself, I guess. This is a pretty chill voiceover, actually. It's more like a recap. And then actually this is a little new, but B stuff is a little bit of a recap. I've done quite a bit of posing tutorials, I think, too. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed that, and I will open up a suggestion submission for future tutorials. But yeah, I'm looking forward to any future tutorial suggestions from you guys, and thank you for listening. Hope you guys have a wonderful day or night. I'll see you guys in the next voiceover tutorial. Take care.